The French were the first to make an industry out of fashion, not just dressmaking, and they have been exporting their style since the 17th century, which is frankly before most of the world had even realized what fashion was. Today, along with London, New York, and Milan, Paris is considered one of the fashion capitals of the world. These days, that doesn't just mean that the people in Paris wear pretty clothes. It is a serious business. Fashion has always existed at the crossroads of art and consumerism and never more suited into this society. The way we perceive our desires, bodies, and era shapes fashion every season, as it shapes us. Paris fashion is at the center of it all. It all kicked off in the 17th century when the association of French with fashion and style was initiated by Louis XIV. The Sun King made it his business to be at the center of all that was beautiful in the world, so the luxury goods industry in France became a royal commodity. The creation of the fashion press in the 1670s catapulted French fashion into the spotlight, and the notion of different fashion seasons and the changing of styles became available to a bigger audience. Louis XIV himself was responsible for starting the trend for outrageous wigs of gold hair. The king was going bald, so he overcompensated and the rest of the court followed suit. During the 18th century French monarchy, the bourgeoisie often looked up to the royal family as a role model in various ways. But from the way they act and the way they dress, women's fashion icons in the royal era usually rely on the queen. As a woman who has the highest status in a country, during the French Revolution, the woman who took the throne was Marie Antoinette, the last queen of France before the French Revolution. Marie Antoinette was infamous for her sense of style. Marie Antoinette popularized sky-high wigs, putting feathers in her hair, jewelry, and custom-made clothes by designer Rose Bertin. This custom-made skirt is just the beginning of the haute couture style category. Marie Antoinette's reign in the fashion world sadly came to an end when she was removed, put in prison, and finally killed by French revolutionaries. The Écureuils were the name for the men of the group, and the Marveilleuses were the women. This group of Parisians emerged after the French Revolution and the reign of terror with a want and need to cut loose and take fashion a little less seriously than their predecessor of the French court. Their style consisted of styles that resembled Greek or Roman tunics, and were made of linen and gauze, and they wore sandals to match. They wore wigs with hair dyed green, blue, purple, and pink, and were generally known to dress as sillily as they acted. Haute couture got its start in the courts of Marie Antoinette. Finally, in the late 19th century, it made a comeback. This is actually thanks to an Englishman named Charles Frederick Worth, who founded the House of Worth, the first modern couture house in Paris. With the emergence of the House of Worth, many other French fashion houses got their start. Famous designers of the time include Jean Paquin, Paul Poiret, and the House of Pateau. Haute couture is special, as each piece was custom and made to order specifically for the lucky person who worked with the designers to make a piece that was perfect for them, and them only. It is also thanks to the house of Ward that fashion shows began. Ward would create a portfolio of designs that he was hoping to sell. He would then produce the design and put them on live models to be displayed in his showroom so that his clients will pick and choose which designs they were interested in having. The fashion show is born. In the late 19th and early 20th century, the French fashion industry exploded. Vogue was founded in 1892 and published in Paris for the first time in 1920. And not far behind, in 1925, designer Coco Chanel debuted her first collection. Coco Chanel came into prominence and revolutionized Paris fashion and then the world. After the First World War, the House of Chanel, following the trend of the 1920s, produced beaded dresses after becoming very popular among flappers. By the 1920s, Chanel had designed and featured an outfitting arrangement consisting of 2 outfits or 3 outfits that allowed a woman to have a modern, feminine appearance while remaining comfortable and practical to care for. Chanel's boyish, simple, and elegant designs were embraced in contrast to the usual designs meant for full-figure women. Chanel reigns to this day as a major player in the luxury fashion world. In 1947, the world's attention was on Paris once more as Christian Dior unveiled his new look. The clean-in waist contrasted with majestic bust and full skirt delighted the post-war clientele in its femininity. However, the Givenchy and Pierre Balmain both opened fashion houses soon after, and Paris was the center of the world again. The 1960s saw the Parisian youth becoming disillusioned with French fashion, apparently too elegant and elaborate, favoring instead the casual style seen in London. Up until the 1960s, fashion was very standardized. This meant that almost everyone was wearing the same styles all of the time. In 1966, Yves Saint Laurent put Paris on the spot again with the Pret-a-Porter ready-to-wear line, which made fashion accessible to the masses. Clothing began to be mass-manufactured, and in turn was more affordable. The hippie movement did not go unnoticed in Paris, and this became a major trend in the 1960s and 70s. From then on, inventive designs did not stop being pumped out of Paris, solidifying its place as the fashion capital of the world. Almost all of the most famous French fashion houses have their headquarters in Paris, and the city is home to Paris Fashion Week, a biannual week-long event featuring fashion shows from French and international designers. In addition to that, Paris is home to the famous Avenue des Champs-Élysées, a street which is known for its designer and luxury shopping. Maurice in the 3rd and 4th arrondissements is also famous for its shopping, designer, and vintage alike.